Welcome to Aurora Connects Season 2. This is episode 7 for Friday, September 25th, 2020, Berkeley's Artistic Directors. As always, I'm Aurora Theater's Associate Artistic Director, Dawn Monique Williams, and I'm joined by Artistic Director Josh Costello. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Dawn, how you doing?
I'm good. It's the end of a long week.
This was a big week. Yeah, lots going on this week.
But I'm happy to be here and happy to be joined with our friends in Berkeley who also are theater makers. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. So here's my quote for the week. All the traditional models for doing things are collapsing, from music to publishing to film. And it's a wide open door for people who are creative to do what they need to do without having institutions block their art. So this is a quote from filmmaker Ava DuVernay. And I thought it was appropriate in light of who's on the show to maybe not read from a play and just talk about models for doing things and what's collapsing and how are institutions blocking art or providing a pathway to art. So
I love how you like to pick those quotes that push buttons for the guests, and for me, it's really great. Yeah,
I
because
have a good time doing it.
Yeah, institutions absolutely block the creation of art in some cases, and they make it possible in some cases, but they also stop it. And so it's a fascinating time, and it's a fascinating time to see what role institutions can play and how we can do it differently. I'm really looking forward to hearing how our guests talk about that.
Me too. I want to remind viewers that they can write questions in the chat on either Facebook or YouTube, wherever they're tuning in today. And we'll try our best to share those questions and comments with the guests live on the show. Also, if they have ideas for future shows or they want to talk to us about things later, they can email us at connects@auroratheater.org, connects@auroratheater.org. And of course, this episode and all of our episodes are available in audio podcast format, likely wherever you get your podcasts from.
I also want the membership program is underway. You can go to auroratheater.org and become a member. It's a reasonable price. It's a lot of programming. Our audio drama, our original audio drama from Lauren Gunderson, Jonathan Spector, and Cleavon Smith is, we are in the midst of recording the actors right now. That's Anthony Fusco, Lauren English, and Kari Moy, and that will be available for downloading on October 23rd. So please go to auroratheater.org. Check out our membership program, all the many different things we're offering for our members, as well as making a donation while you're there. That's the donation button at the top right of auroratheater.org. Thank you so much.
Great. And today, like we said, we are joined with our colleagues, Berkeley Artistic Directors, some very new in their positions, some like you, Josh, a year, 2 years in, and of course, Patrick Dooley, who's been at it since I was in high school. So I love that we have perhaps Berkeley's longest standing artistic director and perhaps Berkeley's newest artistic director. So welcome, Khalia Davis, artistic director at Bay Area Children's Theater, Patrick Dooley, artistic director of Shotgun Players, and Johanna Pfaelzer, artistic director of Berkeley Repertory Theater. Welcome to the show today.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Patrick, when did you become the elder statesman of Berkeley Theater?
That's crazy. Yeah, I remember, when Robert Kelly stepped down and other people, they all started quitting the last few years, and somebody turned to me and said, like, you're the old man Dooley, anyway. Yeah,
Patrick, I know I'm going to start with you because I know you've got to run a little early today, but you founded the Shotgun Players in 1992.
That's right.
You've directed over 40 plays for Shotgun. Shotgun started in Laval's Subterranean Theater, the basement of the Pizza Parlor in North Berkeley, where Impact Theater, my company, moved in there after you guys. You were a mentor to us at that time. We started in '96, so you guys were already you knew what you were doing 4 years in.
Yeah.
You moved to a couple different locations before settling into the Ashby Stage. You oversaw the Ashby Stage becoming the first solar-powered theater in America.
Yeah.
And along the way, you've done all kinds of remarkable work and very experimental and adventurous and bold theater that Shotgun has made. How'd you do it? What's the secret? What makes Shotgun Shotgun?
Gosh, I mean, I mean, I would just say like the secret really is that I just never quit. I mean, what I would say is I wouldn't consider myself like ever the smartest person in any room, but I will say that I'm probably the most relentless and willful, often to my own detriment. But I'm just one of those people. I felt like, if you just keep knocking on the door and you don't stop knocking on the door, eventually, like every blind squirrel finds an acorn. You'll get in. And that's what I would say was definitely what got us through those first 10 years. Like you talk about being at Laval's, and then we literally performed in 40 different venues before we landed at the Ashby stage. We were all over the place: San Francisco, Oakland, warehouses, churches. I mean, yoga studios, wherever they would take us. That's colleges, outdoor parks, wherever they would take us until we landed here. And those first 10 years, it was really just about just don't stop, just keep going. I was a marathon runner when I was in middle school. And that was one of the things I would keep telling that I used as sort of inspiration for myself when it would get really hard. Like if I could run a marathon when I was in 6th grade, I can like get this show up. And so that's what I would say is like, if there is any secret sauce, it was just, I can't quit,
Yep. I remember seeing a show in the back room of a copy store.
Yeah, just down to 3280 Adeline, not too far from where we are now. And then the fire department came and booted us out of there. And then we went to a church around the corner, the South Berkeley Community Congregational Church. And then the fire department kicked us out of there. I mean, it was just like, we would get to the point where we didn't want to put our notices up too soon because people, like before the city would find us and come and then kick us out. That was really like a strategy, like wait until the last minute to start publicizing our shows.
That's amazing.
And I remember coming to see early impact shows. I mean, I think some of your early, maybe I want to say y'all did this, the Devil and what was it? Some guys.
Oh, the Devil and Billy Markham?
I saw that.
That was even before it was called Impact. That was like New Beginnings Theater Company. Like before it was,
I saw that show, sat on the floor and watched that show. I remember going.
That's hardcore, man. That's old school.
That's right. Okay. So I've been there.
Yeah. Amazing. Let's go to our from our most senior artistic director to our newest artistic director, Khalia. It's so great to see you. Khalia has directed lots of plays with Bay Area Children's Theater. She persisted in the musical. She's worked with New York City Children's Theater. You've acted at Theater Works and at Cal Shakes and at Aurora. You were in The Heir Apparent a few years ago, which I directed. There you are. Where are you? There you are fainting in The Heir Apparent. That was so much fun. You were hilarious in that play. And I know, there you are. Look at that dress. That was amazing.
Costumes were beautiful.
Yeah, that was Callie Floor did those costumes and Erickson Conan did that beautiful set. And now you are the new artistic director of Bay Area Children's Theater. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So tell us about this new chapter in your life.
It's been a whirlwind, obviously. As everybody is very aware, theater and the creation of theater as we used to know has completely changed and shifted. And while some may be like, what am I going to do as a leader in a theater organization? I've actually been very excited about this because I feel like I have been gifted the opportunity to start fresh with everybody. So while there's still some learning curves because I have a background as a performing artist, teaching artist, director, choreographer, and now in arts administration. So that hasn't always been my path. My path hasn't been linear. So of course there's going to be learning curves and growing that needs to happen as I journey into this particular position. But I will say that we're pretty much acting like a startup. So we are all on the same page. Our staff is really small at this point, and we are all collectively working together to make something really exciting and adaptable for the situation that we're in today.
Wonderful. We'll just pick up that thread and move to you, Johanna. You're the former artistic director of New York Stage and Film, having had a hand in developing a ton of new works, including Hamilton, The Humans, The Wolves, The Great Leap, Doubt, American Idiot. So many new shows were really kind of germinating there at New York Stage and Film. Tell us a little bit more of how you got there, and then why from New York to Berkeley.
It all seemed like such a good idea a year ago. um, I started off as an actor, and then spent a year at Actors Theater of Louisville in their training program, in their apprentice program, and kind of fell in love there with new play development, moved to New York, started a basement theater company like you do. And that was where I started producing. And not because I wanted to, but because I had to. It was the way that we could create performance opportunities for ourselves. And so, there I was in a basement in Tribeca with 30 actors. So you can imagine like the emotional smell of that room. That I realized over, a span of years there that I really loved and found, honestly, I was just much better suited and was able to be more creative and felt like I could have more impact as a producer than I ever could for myself as an actor. I was not a fabulously gifted actor, but I like to think that I have some skills that I can bring to bear in helping other people realize their art and thinking kind of as nimbly as possible about how to build those teams, how to support them, how to assess the different needs that a project has as it makes its journey through its own kind of lifespan. And I've found that to be really wonderfully rewarding. Stage and film is a crazy incubator where you get to do a million different things, all with kind of low stakes, with amazing people all simultaneously. So part of the real growth for me in coming to a place like Berkeley Rep was the idea that I could realize more things on a larger scale, to be in production year round, and to be engaged with this community of theater goers and theater makers. I would say one of the crazy benefits, as we were all saying before we went live, of this very strange moment is that we've had the opportunity as colleagues, to be in conversation with each other a lot. And again, because we had to, as all of our regular structures have become impossible, I think we've had the opportunity to be reaching out to each other. People have been so remarkably transparent and generous in those conversations. So on the one hand, this has been a really terrifying first year as an artistic director. And on the other hand, the getting to know you of a community has been like a crash course in that regard.
Absolutely. Well, Josh, I'm not going to ask you this question because we've had our own episodes where you've talked about your journey to being an artistic director. But I will just use you as a segue to the next thing, which is Aurora's just recently kind of rewritten its mission statement, and that was really something you led the path with in terms of being our new artistic director and wanting to make sure that the theater was in alignment with going forward. And I know mission statements is something that's big on your mind, Josh. So maybe you want to let our friends know how rewriting the mission statement at Aurora has led you to this passion around mission statements.
Yeah, no, I'm such a nerd about mission statements. I mean, I feel like it's, a big part of, directing a play is figuring out what's the center of the play, what's the main action of the play. This was like hammered into me in grad school, and the reason you do that is so that then you have something you can always go back to when you need to make a decision about, a piece of scenery or a bit of staging. What is this play about? What story are we telling here? And so for me, the mission statement does the same thing. It sets the course, it defines the values, it gives us the thing that we can go back to and say, well, we have to make this decision. Are we going to put our energy and time into this project or into that project? And having a strong mission that we really believe in that's specific to our company, I feel like is important. It's funny, yesterday I'm on the board of Fault Line Theater in San Francisco, and they're going through a similar process, and we just had a big conversation about mission statements. But I geek out over this stuff, but I'm curious too, like, how does that, I feel like these four companies, though very much not the only theater companies in Berkeley, there are many, many other theater companies in Berkeley, but we, I feel like, represent different aspects of our community in really interesting ways, and sort of offer our community four very different types of theater. And I'm curious about how for each of you, what your mission statement is, like what's the key component of the mission of your company? What do you see as being your role in our community? Why don't we go to let's go to Patrick. Going around.
I mean, and like you, Josh, and like a lot of us right now, we're lifting up the hood and looking at what we've built and said, okay, what we built over the last however many years is actually not what we want to be driving right now. And so how do we, as we're moving, take it apart and reassemble it? And what's the best way to do that? And so we've spent the last couple months actually going through and creating a whole new value statement. There's a committee of folks that's actually involving the board, company, and staff. And we are going to be looking at our mission statement again. I mean, frankly, even looking at the term mission statement, and we're working with some Native American folks who said the word mission statement is pretty loaded for us. And so it's made us kind of like, whoa, maybe we're going to call it a purpose statement. But anyway, setting that aside, this pandemic is offering us a lot of opportunities, and one of those is for us to just all of us have been running theater companies, and it's crazy how busy we are, and that we don't take enough time to stop and look at those underpinnings. We just move, and this stoppage has really given us a chance to just take a breath and reevaluate that. So we are looking at our mission statement again. I would say that the core of our mission statement really is to create work that gives us another chance to reimagine and reevaluate the world where we live. And what I often say, like the nugget of that is, if you see a play, if you walk outside and the cool, Berkeley night hits your face and you've kind of forgotten what you've seen, we have failed. If you're still thinking about it the next morning and it's making you reconsider your life and the lives of those around you, then we've succeeded. But I want to figure out a way for us to articulate that in a way that's also speaking to the moment where we are now. That's incorporating a lot of the social issues that are so important, that have been neglected by our organization and others, and how we can, just try to reimagine that purpose statement and as we're mapping our way forward. Yeah, I think that's where I'll leave it right there.
How about you, Khalia? What's Bay Area Children's Theater's mission, and how do you see that fitting into to our community?
We echo a lot of what Patrick Dooley is saying, and the reimagining of what and I love that our purpose statement could be. We actually don't even say mission statement on our website. We talk about values. And we're in a unique position as a theater for young audience, which means we take ownership and acknowledge the power that we have in shaping young minds and creating a generation of creative thinkers and innovative thinkers. And so we are constantly aware of where we're located, being in the Bay Area, being near Silicon Valley, knowing that there are families that may not think of theater as something that can really benefit their children in the long run, if they're like, oh, but they're not going to be on Broadway, so why are we even going to have them go to our shows, or like, why do we need to sign them up for these classes? And so what we're trying to do is reconfigure that, and we've created brilliantly, Nina Meehan, now considered our CEO and founder of Bay Area Children's Theater. She has thought of 5 pillars of creative thinking. So we are going to these schools, we are going to these families, and we're saying that the product that we're providing you is helping children get excited about the use of their own imagination, self-expression, storytelling, and actually also critical analysis. And how can they question what they are seeing, and giving them space to do so, as we are asking ourselves how we can really take on ownership of anti-racism within our organization, anti-Blackness within our organization, even at a young person's level, because it starts with our young people. And we know that we have that responsibility, especially in a community of active and engaged families that are teaching their children about the world, and they're not shying away from it. They're talking about all of these issues that are happening around them, and we want to be a part of that conversation. So our values are trying to echo a lot of that, while also maintaining just the spark of joy that we would like to bring with the shows that we present to them, as well as educational values as well.
Amazing. I love it. How about you, Johanna? What about Berkeley Rep and Berkeley Rep's mission and place in the community? I mean, Berkeley Rep is such a huge sort of cultural institution in Berkeley. You know, you've got the big building and next door to Aurora on Addison Street, and the you know, the two theaters there, and you've got your other space down off of Gilman, and you know, been around for so long. What is Berkeley Rep's role?
Way to ask the big questions, Josh. Jeez. You know, I think as Patrick said, we are in a moment of real deep examination of who we are, and given the role that we have the capacity to play in the community, where are we serving the community in a real and authentic and responsible way? Where are we having to acknowledge that we have failed this community in certain ways? And I think it's really important as we walk forward to do that internal work of recognizing, you know, where we have been successful and where we haven't. And I think obviously we would be facing some of this in any leadership transition. It's a moment that you look back and you think, what do we want to build on and what do we want to do differently? And of course, this specific moment, I think, is lending an entirely new and brighter light to that need to really think hard about who we want to be on the other side of this. You know, I look at everybody on this call, and I think even just about the ones of us who are neighbors, and you know, collectively Berkeley has such an incredibly rich collection of arts organizations, you know, not just theaters. So for us, we're doing some pretty deep internal work, both with the board and with the staff. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens as we start to meld those conversations, as we look really hard at both the mission, and we also have a set of values that serve as our statements as well. So,
Johanna,
yeah.
oh, please finish. I'm
No,
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Well, I was just going to say that you started us a little bit. I have a follow-up question, and you started us a little bit there with, you know, what makes Berkeley unique or idiosyncratic, and I would love to hear from all of you a little bit how having your space be in Berkeley also informs those values, that work. You know, is there something about not just Berkeley audiences, because we know the audiences come from all around, but Berkeley citizens and being civic, you know, organizations and citizen artists. How does Berkeley inform all of that, the choices you're making?
I mean, I'll just jump in. For me, I think there is such an expectation in Berkeley of civic engagement and of activism. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, when I was, my earliest memories of being a child in Berkeley are being, you know, marched around Sproul Plaza by my parents in the really early 70s. But I think that's incredibly consistent with what I hear from our audiences now and sort of what I experience walking down the street here, that we are all meant to be something more than a source of entertainment. You know, we're meant to be a locus of conversation, of internal examination, but I think it's meant to be external as well. And I think, you know, Patrick, to your point, when you're saying it's not enough if people walk out and they're not thinking about it, and I would just add to that, that I think when people are walking out engaged in deep debate about what they have just seen, that maybe forces a little self-examination, a little analysis of who you are in relationship to your community, to the world at large. And, you know, maybe the aspirational part is that it's going to make you do something differently. Yeah. And again, I don't mean to say that all of that can't live in the company of also being delighted and being entertained and feeling things deeply. But I think it's meant to be all of those things. And I would say maybe it's that and that to me is kind of the Berkeley special sauce.
That's it. Yeah.
That's
I mean, I'm right. Done.
My job. You did it.
Amazing. You're welcome.
You know, what I would say, yeah, just sort of echoing that, or just sort of our another way of like saying that I hear from our audience is, you know, that whole expression of afflict the comfort and comfort the afflicted. Like our audience wants them to like push them out of their safe space. And, you know, I would say that often, and that is hard to do, because I would say I love you, Berkeley people. I love you. I mean, I've been here for 30 years, but a lot of you think like we are so enlightened. We marched in the 60s. We were there. We're done. Like, but there's so much that has happened since the 60s, and so much has been changing in the last, I mean, forget about the last 6 months, the last several years, that I think a lot of us, if we don't stay engaged, we're not paying attention, we're not noticing that the world is continuing to evolve and continue to change. And that that there's a lot that our Berkeley audience, that our enlightened Berkeley audience still has a lot to, it's sometimes like, I would say it's really hard for us to sometimes like push them out of their comfort in how enlightened they are. And, and I say that with all love, but that's just the truth. And so I feel like that's a real challenge that we find ourselves facing all the time. Oh yeah, I got that. I don't need that lesson. I don't need to hear that. I don't need that story. I'm like, well, okay, let's tell it another way so we can kind of get under your skin a little bit. I feel like it's really like, if we're not getting under their skin, then we're failing. I'll say that's another way of sort of saying it. Yeah, and I would say just about, the other thing I would say about Berkeley, and the reason why I stopped here, I was actually driving cross country on my way to Seattle in 1992. And I stopped here really because there was such a vibrant arts community here. I mean, it's incredible how many theater seats per capita there are in this town, and what an appetite there is for the arts and to be challenged. And I really felt like if there was ever a place where I could make the work that was exciting to me and that could be supported, that I could make a life, it would be in this place. So even if I find the arts and the community is often in this sort of like pushing each other place, that it's, it comes from a place of like wanting to learn and wanting to be better and wanting to grow.
Speaking of that, Patrick, I've heard a story that you, you were driving across the country and you auditioned for I think it was Cal Shakes, and didn't get cast, and you were like, well, screw it, I'm going to start my own company then.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, and Joanna, I want to say this also, I was the first alternate at Actors Theater of Louisville. And but that's another whole story that I really want to tell you how that catapulted me there. But I actually auditioned for Julian Lopez Morias, and they were wanting me to be a spirit carrier or an apprentice. And then I found out that like you had to pay to do it or whatever. I was like, what? Like, I can't do that. And so, yeah, they wouldn't hire me. I couldn't get a job. And so, yeah, I started my own theater company. I'd never directed a play when I started this theater company. This whole experiment has been my extended PhD program and trying to figure out like, what is theater? Anyway, so, but yes, that's true. And I still haven't been to Seattle, but I hear it's a great place. Maybe we'll all go there someday.
Khalia, please, you were going to speak.
Yes.
Oh, just in what has been said, I just would love to lift up the families and young people that live in Berkeley and Oakland and Richmond, and that they are a beautiful spectrum of colors and vibrancy themselves. And so we want to make sure that when they come to our theater, that they are seeing a reflection of themselves in all the work that we are producing, from the people that greet them through the doors to who's on their stages. And we know that there are places that we could do better in that. And so I'm grateful to be a part of a team that's willing to grow and expand and make sure that that truly is part of the whole experience for our young people, because there is such there's a desire to like prove to these kids that like, yeah, we got it. We're totally in. We know, because they're telling us what we need to be aware of, and we don't want to silence that. We want to celebrate it. So the material that we present to them, we want to make sure that they're like, oh yeah, I'm into this. This is good stuff. I like this, and not so much fluff. Though fluff is great, but we're not doing that much of it anymore.
Nice.
And that's very Berkeley.
Yeah. I'm embarrassed to admit I've never seen a Bay Area Children's Theater show. Never. I know it's sort of shocking, but I bet it sort of speaks to a kind of widely held opinion about, I'm going to put in quotes, children's theater, because I know there's some other terms like theater for all audiences, right? So that like when my daughter was very little, we lived out of state for a spell. Though I'm from here, we spent most of her childhood away, but I've seen tons of things at Shotgun and Berkeley Rep dating all the way back. Um, so I wonder, Khalia, if there's something that you all are trying to do specifically to let people know that this is theater for all audiences and that it's not the children's theater when it's used in that sort of pejorative way, that sort of like, oh, but it's like for kids. Because I have friends that have worked there and are doing very grown up things. She persisted. It's very grown up.
It is. And so we want to continue to create work like that, where we're saying we want the whole family to be involved in this experience because we don't want the parents to check out. Because a lot of times when you go see some of those particular types of performances that do exist, sometimes on the national level, a parent will go because they know it's going to babysit their child for an hour and a half and they can just check out. But what we want is to make sure that the parents are just as engaged the entire process so that then afterwards on the walk home, the bike ride home, and the drive home or on the subway, they are able to keep that conversation going. So we are pushing some of the themes that we're showcasing in our work. I mean, just recently we produced a kids play about racism based on Jelani Memory's book, A Kid's Book About Racism, because I believed that I was seeing a lack of involvement of young people's voices in the conversation revolving around racism and how it affects them and their community. And I felt like there is a way in which we can create a show that will give young people tools and language to participate in the conversations that are currently happening around them that they can't ignore because it's literally everywhere, and also give conversation starters for adults and grown-ups so that they have tools too, because they're saying, hey, we don't know how to start. We don't know what to say. And our role as a TYA company, Theater for Young Audience, is to give them a source of art that then they can take with them and go, oh, okay, remember that time when that tiger said that thing to that lion and how that made them feel? And the child is able to appreciate that analogy because it speaks to them at their development in and where they are at that time. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see as we're moving through the pandemic, starting to reimagine what theater could be and what it looks like. What are the types of works we can continue to bring to the stage so that parents and grown-ups are constantly active and engaged just as much as the young people that they're bringing to the theater.
And
Khalia,
Khalia,
I so love. Oops.
I'm sorry, I just want to say Amanda dropped in the chat. My kids loved them. It was so good. My 2-year-old even engaged a little bit. And I'm assuming that's coming directly from Amanda because if it was from the YouTube or Facebook, she would have attributed it to a speaker. So you definitely have some fans. And I was going to pivot to you, Johanna, and just ask you conversely what you all are doing to attract younger audiences and how there might be opportunities during this pandemic shutdown to do so. So why don't you go ahead and say what you were going to say and then tack on an answer to that question?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I mean, in response to what Khalia is saying, I think it's so important, and I so love what you're doing, Khalia, because that idea of theater as a place of education, and not in that like stuffy, limiting way, but just that I think people of all ages come to all of our theaters to be enlightened in some capacity. And so the idea that, you know, you have the capacity to start that with people who are still very small feels like an incredibly powerful thing right now, you know? Sorry, your question was about what are we doing for?
Just how is Berkeley Rep? I mean, maybe it's just the times that I come, but you know, Berkeley Rep's audience skews a little more mature, a little more advanced in age, especially if you have a matinee series, which is what I have.
Yeah.
So just wondering, and then how the digital content of right now is allowing you to maybe build capacity for other audiences. So yeah, that was the question.
Yeah, I mean, the question of sort of who we can reach right now who are not typically part of our audiences is really, really interesting to me. We've been doing this weekly sort of like a book club for plays called What's in a Play, where people read a play independently and then they come together on a Monday night or a Tuesday afternoon to talk about it. And what we found is that, we have a funny collection of people who are regulars or who've been part of the Berkeley Rep audience, but also people are kind of joining from really distant reaches. We've had people coming in from Australia and Boston and Southern California. So it's this funny moment where geography is sort of irrelevant, and that's an incredible opportunity. I mean, on the other hand, it's part of, I think, what's creating sort of noise, frankly, in all of our consumption is that every theater company's full range of programming is available to all of us essentially equally. So there's incredible bounty in that, but it's also a little daunting. But I do think over time, what it's allowing us to do is to think about the ways in which we can broaden our audience. I mean, don't get me wrong, I am so profoundly grateful to those people who have been turning up at Berkeley Rep for years and who come on a weekday matinee. I mean, those are the people who, whereas I've made my way through this community over the last year, they're the ones saying, like, I was there when this theater was on College Avenue and I love these things about it. And basically, like, parenthetically, please don't screw it up, which I promise really hard to try not to do. But I think this big open question of who theater is for, who has access to it, at what price point, and right now the pandemic is affording, I think, all of us this opportunity to be able to make maybe more things for fewer people at each turn. We can be a little more bespoke in who we're reaching out to with different kinds of programming. It's giving us an opportunity to explore relationships with different artists who are situated in different places. It feels like it's really all up for grabs in many, many ways that are a little terrifying, and in other ways that I'm finding super interesting and stimulating.
Great. Patrick Dooley had to go and speak at another event, so he has said his goodbye. Thank you to Patrick for being on the show, but we can keep on going here. Khalia, let's go back to you. It's growing up in the Bay Area. We don't have a big ACT Berkeley Rep size TYA company, and those exist in other places. Seattle Children's Theater and the Children's Theater Company in Minneapolis. There are these companies that are these very large, like Lort A, 800 seat, 500 seat theaters, and the Bay Area doesn't have that. And what is Bay Area Children's Theater looking to like grow into a much larger company? Are you happy being smaller and nimble? What's the sort of long-term vision for Bay Area Children's Theater?
I think we're thinking of it as how many young people can we reach? So what size do we need to be to make sure we're getting the largest reach of kids throughout the span of the Bay Area? And I've been saying this since I joined the team last month. I was like, hey, I think we need to earn our name even more because we are serving the beautiful Berkeley and Oakland communities really well. And then in our academy and education classes, we are serving quite a range of Bay Area young people because we can hold those classes in the different communities that are there. But when it comes to performance, we're really not stepping that far outside of East Bay. We were going to San Francisco. There was a time in which we actually even went to Marin. That's when I was still an actor. But we're rarely going to the South Bay. And I think what's interesting is that there are not a number of theater for young audiences, which is when adults are performing for kids. There's our organization, Palo Alto Children's Theater, does exist in the Silicon Valley. Theater Works Silicon Valley has a school tour that they do, but we are really the only one that is modeling ourselves after what a lot of the traditional theater companies are doing that are for young people nationwide. So we are not against the idea of growing because we have been as an organization, we actually have been growing, but I think it's even more about not necessarily in space, but in where we can position ourselves throughout the entire Bay Area. So what partnerships can we make from the South Bay all the way up to the North Bay where they're like, okay, this theater in conjunction with Bay Area Children's Theater presents this show. So we are reaching that audience as well. And they don't necessarily have to come all the way, because it's that barrier to entry that we're always talking about. Like, I don't want any young people to feel like they could not, or young person to feel like they could not get to us. We need to get to them. And digitally, we're offering that, which is very exciting. And we're changing up our model a little bit too when it comes to membership in programming, to hopefully make it more affordable and release a lot of the gatekeeping that we've had in the past due to location. But just literally to answer your question, we are not against the idea of being big time, but that is not our immediate thought process when it comes to the expansion of our company. It's more about how far can we reach as opposed to how big can we be.
Love that. Let's talk a little bit about how we're all weathering this situation that we're in now. This is, obviously an enormous crisis for all of us. Without the income from subscriptions and single ticket sales, we've all had to slash our budgets and introduce furloughs and layoffs, and really reimagine what our business model is. It's, we've all gone through various phases of like saying, okay, well, we're going to do a season next year, so please buy subscriptions. And then, well, actually, okay, maybe it looks like we won't do a season, but we're going to do something else, and we'll do this online programming. Johanna, let's start with you. How is Berkeley Rep positioning themselves to get through this this crisis? What are you doing?
It's been really hard. I will not lie about that. We in the middle of March, when the shutdown first happened, we very quickly, within a few weeks, had to furlough a number of people, including like our front of house staff and some of our show crew. So it's been really, really rough. We're a much smaller company right this second than we were 6 months ago. And I think the question for us now is, as you say, the idea of a calendar and planning is, I don't even know what the right metaphor for it is. All I know is that I have never, ever made and unmade so many plans in my entire life. How many seasons have we all designed and scheduled and calendared, and only to upend them? So that part, it's really hard because it's entirely out of our control, right? Yeah. All of us. It's not, we can say, oh, we're going to open on this date, but that is going to be determined by health officials, by the pharmaceutical industry, by our government. And ultimately, it's not going to work until the moment that our audiences feel safe coming back into our buildings. And so we can do a lot of things to make that possible. And then some of it, is going to be up to both individuals and to communities. So the plan making, I would say, super challenging. We're trying to think really well, not just about, like, let me rephrase that. I think we are starting to move out of that period of panic and being totally reactive and trying to survive, to actually try to come to a place where we're looking at, and I don't mean this to sound Pollyanna, but like, what are the actual opportunities in this moment? As we've been saying, there is time afforded to us right now that we don't normally have when we're in production. So what is the deep thinking that we can do? How can we re-examine our producing models? How do we use this time to sort of beta test a whole slew of different ways of communicating story to different audiences? So, we're doing radio plays, we're doing podcasts, we're starting a video project. We're sharing other people's work and helping to curate the work of artists who are really meaningful to our audiences, and make sure that even if we're not the ones directly producing that, we're bringing those to additional people. But in terms of the work that we're actually making ourselves, it is that sense of like, how do we put ourselves back in the land of functioning in some ways like a small company? Like, let's make some things. Let's, know that some of it will be wildly successful and some of it won't. How do we give ourselves institutionally, I think, that permission to take risks that we are so proud of trying to create for artists?
How about you, Khalia? How are you guys weathering the storm?
We are, I'm just so proud of us because we just launched today our newly redesigned website that has our membership model on there. And I'm really grateful because I'm somebody, again, coming from an independent artist background, not being beholden to structures and institutions to produce the work I want to produce. I've always thought, like, let's get creative, let's be innovative. And especially with young people's theater, like, the whole point is to be limitless and expansive. So I'm really grateful that everybody on our team uh, believes in that as well. And we put our heads together and our heads down for 6 months, and we created something really exciting and cool that still speaks to who we are, but we're offering our programming in a different way. We are offering it through audio musicals and through video challenges and content. But we are also having play on boxes. So these kids are able to interact with items, and they are up on their feet and they're moving around. So they're not just listening, but they are participating, just like we would be having them do in our spaces. We're just translating that to their ears, which I think is very exciting. So for us, we have seen this as, maybe this is very Pollyanna, but as an opportunity to be adapting to what's happening right now and to say we are going with the times. We're not going to stop. We are going to create programming and work that speaks to what kids need now. And we hope that people like it. I mean, literally, we just launched today. So check back in with us in a couple weeks and I'll let you know if this works. It could fail. And like, that's great, right? Like the risk of making something and then it not working very well, and then being able, like, okay, let's try something else. What is the next thing we have to do? Very grateful we have incredible staff members. I would lift all of them up by name if we had the time, but we went from an over 100-person staff because of furloughs and layoffs. Now it's just 11 of us, and we are all incredible collaborators. We are all multidisciplinary artists. So there's a lot of great, amazing brain trust happening. So I'm seeing this as an opportunity. I think that this was really beautiful for reflection. I love that we have time. I love that we've been forced to stop and slow down and reimagine and rethink about a lot of things and how we create within these institutions. But I think what we are creating is very exciting.
And Khalia, just to be clear, so you've only been artistic director for like a month or two, but you were part of those conversations before that, yeah?
Yes.
And part of this organization, yeah.
Yeah.
What was your role with Barry Children's Theater before artistic director?
I have been pushing and bogarting my way into people's rooms for a while. So I have always been excited about the creation of new work for young people. And I was voraciously trying to find organizations that would allow me to be actively involved as much as I possibly could. And I'm very grateful to Nina Meehan in 2012, seeing something in me and being like, let's make her cow number 2 in the show Click Clock Moo, and also a choreographer in our summer camps. And then that relationship built and the mentorship was established. So my journey to being an artistic director with Bay Area Children's Theater is actually pretty unique because I started as an actor and I worked my way up. And I think it shows, hopefully, a way in which I think a lot of other organizations should look to creating a desire in leadership from people who you may not necessarily think in the moment that they could potentially be leaders, but you're like, I'm going to give you this responsibility. And that bolsters your confidence to then go, you know what, I'm going to give you now this responsibility. So before being an artistic director, just maybe a few months before, I served as the director of inclusion and education for Brooklyn Children's Theater. And that was able to give my feet wet in the idea full time and in arts administration that I had not had prior. But it also was, again, speaking to a lot of the things that I'm very passionate about, which is inclusivity, making sure that all young people have access to this great thing that we love called art making. And also, how does that relate to what the organization's doing beforehand? And it's been really great learning experience for myself leading into being an artistic director. But before that, I'm a teaching artist, and I've been a teaching artist for 20 plus years. I started, I was participating in a summer camp. I tell everyone this. I was 13 years old. First session, I was a camper. second session, I was a teacher's aide because they were like, hey, she's very responsible. Does she want to work with our 6 to 9-year-olds? And I was hooked. So as much as I've loved being a performer of the arts, I've loved being an educator in the arts. And I think that that has helped fuel that desire to be on the other side of the table, to be in those rooms, making larger decisions, because I do believe that there aren't enough of me in those rooms. There's not enough of my community and other communities of color in those spaces yet. It's growing, it's getting better, and I'm very excited about it. And I'm grateful that I am working with an organization that recognized that they had the ability to make space to bring in new voices so that I can be a part of it now. But yeah, I've had a very crazy way to get to being an artistic director.
Love it. We love everything about it. I'm taken by what you said, Khalia, that this has afforded us some time to slow down and to reflect. And of course, this moment is further complicated by cultural uprising. And I mean, just as recent as a day or two ago, we learned that there would be no charges brought in the Breonna Taylor case. So I just wonder how your organizations are responding to the Black Lives Matter movement, or confronting racism or other systems of oppression, and how you're integrating that work into also trying to figure out how to move through a theater shutdown and global pandemic.
Heavy. That's heavy. Since I was just talking, I'll just continue to say that one of the things that I'm really grateful for is that I have not been tokenized in my position, there, meaning that I stepped into the first Zoom room day, my first day, and they had already been having the tough decisions and tough conversations around racism and the uprising and the all of the things that have been happening, specifically also in the Bay Area, because though there's been a nationwide uprising, I think there's been this really incredible Bay Area theater uprising as well. And so they've already have been in conversations about that. So when I stepped in, I was just adding my voice to it, my perspective on it, my vision around it. But I have not yet felt, and I do not believe this will happen, I have not felt that I've had to be the voice because I identify as a Black female, where I am hoping we get to is we honor the commitments that we have put forth on our webpage. It is there, it is clear as day, and I'm grateful for that. I hope that we continue to uphold that. We ask that our consumers, our families hold us accountable, our community holds us accountable to what we've put out there. And I'm looking forward to continuing to go through the Bay Area Living Document and the action steps, because what we have been doing is taking each one and finding out, is it something we can do now? Is it something we can do in the future? Is it something that we have to wait until after COVID-19 pandemic? We are really taking, as you say, the time to talk through every single one, because we find it to be really important. And it also has enlightened us to realize that I think we need to be making a special one that is geared towards theater for young audiences. I think that there are a lot of wonderful takeaways from the Bay Area Living Document, as well as the We See You action items, but they are written for LORT regional adult main stage theaters. It's not necessarily written for children's theaters. And I think that the next step is going to be creating a document that speaks more to the needs of the children's theater sector in the larger conversation. So that's what we've been experiencing. And then the final thing I'm going to say about it is that we are of the community, right? So we're out there. I was so elated to see my staff members handing out juice boxes and waters and having a kids drawing station during a lot of the protesting that was happening in downtown Berkeley. We were providing a source for families to have a respite, and kids can make posters and signs. So we are actively involved in a way that fits kids and families. So still within our mission, still within our values, but saying we're not ignoring what's happening. We want to be involved in it. And this is how we can do that. Okay, that's it.
Fantastic.
Johanna,
Yeah, that was a
please.
fun day. We had that booth and people from Bay Area Children's Theater at Aurora's lobby, and we were, carrying stuff back and forth to the Civic Center Park for some of those Black Lives Matter protests. That was really, really cool. And you guys had it all organized and figured out. It was really great. Johanna, what about Berkeley Rep and the situation around calls for racial justice in the American theater, and how is Berkeley Rep responding to that?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're, I would say, involved in a lot of deep conversations, and we're approaching it in a few different ways. I mean, I would say our board is involved in a really interesting set of conversations amongst themselves and thinking about how as a board, they need to themselves be more reflective of our community, setting some really specific goals, again, in terms of our board composition, and backing out from there, what are the action steps they need to take to achieve that. And then we're working internally as a staff, as Khalia said, we've all been given the great gift of some very specific things that we can respond to, both from the Bay Area Living Document, from the We See You, our own staff created a roadmap for action and accountability. So we've had some, I think, really beautiful offerings to be responsive to. I think we are trying to fight the impulse to respond really quickly, and we're trying to figure out how to actually take this moment to think pretty deeply about what institutional change looks like, especially in an organization maybe of our size. We're going to go from there, but we know that there is impact for our staff, for our leadership, for our board, and for our audience, as well as, of course, trying to create a place where we are creating a work environment for our artists that feels equitable and safe.
We are running a little short on time, so I want to ask each of you if there's something coming up that you are offering for audiences that you'd like to promote. What do you got, Johanna?
A bunch of stuff, but I'll tell you about one thing that's coming up really soon. On October 13th, we launch our radio play adaptation of It Can't Happen Here. So this is based on Sinclair Lewis's novel that was adapted for the stage 4 years ago by Tony Taccone and Bennett Cohen, directed by Lisa Peterson. For those of you who don't know, it's a frighteningly prescient story of a small town newspaper editor who really tries to draw attention to the dangers that he sees facing his community and the country as the nation moves to elect a demagogue as president, and what happens in the aftermath of that election. Felt like a really important moment to revisit this story. So given the limitations of the time, Tony and Bennett have adapted this for audio. And what's really cool is when Sinclair Lewis wrote the novel in 1935, by 1936, he had done his own theatrical adaptation. And it was done by the WPA and produced in 21 cities across the country simultaneously. And it feels like a moment, again, to be in partnership with our colleagues, like-minded and not, frankly, because I think I see this piece more than anything as a call to action to exercise your vote, to claim your power as a citizen and to take charge for creating the government that you want to see. So we've partnered with 75 different organizations. Berkeley Rep is producing this. We are offering it for free to these 75 partners, hopefully with more to come. Theaters that range from the Goodman and the Roundabout to really small organizations, universities, including St. Cloud, Minnesota, and Howard University in DC, libraries and community centers. So that will launch ideally simultaneously for each one of those audiences on October 13th, but then the recordings will be available on Berkeley Rep's website through November 8th, which hopefully by then our election will be complete, devoutly to be wished. But we've been able to bring back, I think, 13 members of the original cast and 3 new people. They've been recording from all over the country, from Toronto to Ashland to LA to Berkeley. So it's been a real learning curve in terms of how to bring this all together remotely, but a place where I feel like the power of theater and our sense of civic responsibility can come together, and hopefully in a real actionable way.
Fantastic. And Khalia, what's coming up for Bay Area Children's Theater?
So just quickly, the show that I spoke on earlier, a kids play about racism. One of the dreams that I had when I adapted and directed it was that it would be something that could continue to live on through educational resources. So we have actually just launched on the kidsplayabout.org website. If you click on the educators tab, we now have access for all educators, homeschool, teaching artists. You just need to basically prove that you're going to be showing this to students. And we have provided the full show, which is 30 minutes, as well as our active audience guide that was created by Seattle Children's Theater's Education Department in association with Alliance Theater. And we are really excited about that because we wanted to make sure that this was a free offering for all educators. And we actually have surpassed so many students already. We're in like the 70,000s at this point of students who are going to get to see this. We've been in South Korea, Ecuador. So it's very exciting where this can go and how big it can get. So yeah.
Well, thank you both so
wonderful.
much for being here. This was a fantastic conversation.
Total pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for bringing us together.
Yeah, and thanks for all
So
the work
great.
that you do for our community and at your theaters. It's really great to be in community with you.
Can't wait till we're all back on the block together.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have
Me
a block
neither. Yes, we
Good.
really should. We really should. Well, Josh, it's time for your spotlight moment.
Yes, we like to give a shout out to another organization that's doing good work in our community. And today we are highlighting Youth Spirit Artworks, which is an interfaith arts, jobs, and job training nonprofit serving homeless and other underserved youth ages 16 to 25. The mission of Youth Spirit Artworks is to use art jobs and jobs training to empower and transform the lives of youth, giving young people the skills, experience, and self-confidence needed to meet their full potential. YSA is modeled after the renowned New Orleans-based youth organization Young Aspirations, Young Artists, which has involved thousands of young people in commercial arts jobs and job training for more than 20 years. They are at youthspiritartworks.org, so please check them out.
That's incredible. I'll remind you all that if you have guests you'd love to see on the show, comments, quotes you'd love to hear, any questions for us, you can reach us at connects@auroratheater.org, connects@auroratheater.org.
And again, at auroratheater.org, you can find information about our membership program, our upcoming audio drama, The Flats, which drops on October 23rd. So please check that out. Join us, become a member of Aurora Theater Company. Next week on Connects, we will have our good friend, actor Michael J. Asbury, who is the most prolific commenter on episodes of Aurora Connects and was the star of Exit Strategy a year ago at Aurora. So we're really happy to have Michael with us next week.
Thanks again to our guests today, and thank you for watching. Thanks for staying connected. Until next Friday. Bye.